All right, guys. Okay, so today, one of the things I thought I'd talk about a little bit is how to be successful as a commercial real estate agent in your market. Okay, there are essentially three things that you have to take a look at and things that you want to really take into consideration when choosing your career in commercial real estate. First and foremost, number one, I would choose a major market or an area where major metropolitan statistical area. So this way there's enough inventory to keep busy and really grow your career and make a name for yourself. The next thing I would do is look at product type. Okay, we've all heard the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. Nobody wants to work with somebody who knows a little bit about everything. They want an expert in the field that they're working in. So you should choose a product class, know it inside and out, and be the professional that everyone wants to go to just for that product class. If you are, you're going to just generate business just from word of mouth and referrals coming in. Lastly, and this is where a lot of people end up failing, not only, yes, cold calling is the number one way to get business, but a lot of agents don't take into consideration the marketing, what they need to do for marketing, how they can go about it and create business that way. If you open up a store and you don't have a sign or lights out front, no one knows you're open, right? So you have to market yourself and show why people want to use you. So you want to choose things that are specifically within real estate itself. Why do people want to use you? But also promote you as the individual. Now, there's different ways of going about that, and there's different types of marketing that you can do. Number one, everyone talks about this when they first get into real estate in all aspects of real estate is sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence is probably going to give you the most amount of business initially because ultimately, these are people that already trust you or know you. So they're more likely to refer you business or use you for business. So really, you need to get out there and let everybody in your sphere of influence know that you're in commercial real estate and what you're doing in commercial real estate. So, it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 friends if not one of them knows what you're doing, right? In fact, if anything, you now have 10,000 people that you could have accessed with marketing, but you're losing that opportunity. They're going somewhere else. So sphere of influence, definitely reach out. That should be your first initial contact when you start off in commercial real estate. Yes?
What if we are a mid-20s agent looking to start ourselves and the people we went to high school with aren't necessarily looking into commercial real estate?
Well, good question. If your sphere of influence is not the decision makers at this time, they're still probably going to be working, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And they're working in businesses that can still give you business. Okay? Meaning, I know when I started off, I knew when our company was looking for a new office space. I know if my boss or supervisor is investing in commercial real estate. They can at least put you in contact with those people. Also look for sphere of influence in the sense of, maybe they're a young person that just graduated college working at a CPA firm, maybe introduce you to other CPAs or attorneys that can get you the business. So it's not just, your sphere of influence is not just to give you business, but also to make connections with people who can give you business. Mm-hmm. And that's really what you want to take a look at. It's just not, it shouldn't be just, how can I get business from them or how can they give me business? It's more about who do they know that they can introduce me to that I can then convert to business. Okay, because you can't expect someone to just give you that business. You're still going to have to convert it. Even if it's a good friend, they're going to want to make sure that you know what you're doing, right? So you're going to have to convert that business. So that's when it comes to the sphere of influence, it's knowing who you need to speak with. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. A lot of the people that are 65, 70 years, there are a lot of agents that are 65 years old that do a lot of business and a lot through their sphere of influence, but a lot of their friends are also retired. They can still refer them people. Just because they're not in the business world doesn't mean that they can't refer you the business. So definitely work on your sphere of influence. The next is, how are you going to set yourself apart? You want people to come to you. We always talk about this. We talk about adding value to whatever you're doing. And what I mean by that is, it's really nice to toot your own horn on occasion, but you also want to add value. If you see posts that are just all about closings, closing posts are good because it tells people that you're active in the market and that you're working in that submarket. But at the same time, they don't add a whole lot of value other than, I work in this market. It's more about identification versus adding value for your client. So start looking at things that your clients might want to know about, and you can start working on that, putting out blogs, whether it's 1031 money, how to, the time value of money, debt service coverage ratios, whatever terms or things that someone can take a look at and actually increase their returns by understanding what you're trying to convey to them. Different strategies for investments and investment techniques. So next, add that value, okay? So when you go to marketing, adding that value, in addition to your sphere of influence, who else are you going to go out and outreach? Number one source right now, and a lot of people aren't using it yet, is social marketing. So really pick a platform or two and really focus your time into it. It can be either LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook even. Surprisingly, Facebook is still the number one source of business leads and business generation dollars. And then TikTok. So also look at new emerging social media platforms that might be good to get started on. The idea is that when you're working on social media, you want to have, especially if you're going out to a client, you don't want to have just one or two things on your social media. So part of this is, if you're going to do this, you have to be consistent. Consistency is key to this. More importantly, for instance, when TikTok first came out, our company and one of our partners in the company, they were the first person to hashtag commercial real estate on TikTok. The average age was, I think, 13 at the time, if that. But within 6 months, it was 20 years old. So these weren't our target clients necessarily, but what we're doing was creating content so that when the age group caught up to who we were targeting, we'd actually have a page full of content versus one or two things like, I just jumped on the bandwagon. This is something that we do. We're professional, so we're constantly doing it, not just jumping on a bandwagon. So with that in mind, by the time within a year, the age group was in the high 20s, low 30s. Within a year and a half, it was already up into the mid 30s. And that's where you're starting to find decision makers, people doing the initial searches, things like that. So that's actually starting to generate business as well. So understand that your marketing, especially social marketing, is all about consistency and adding value. What can you bring to the table that they're going to want to see and watch in a quick 1, 2, 3 minute snippet? But also, what value are you bringing to the table, and why should they keep coming to see you? The idea is that out of sight, out of mind. So if you're constantly in front giving good advice, when they do need your services, the first person that they're going to think of is you. Yes, do you have a question or?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. All right. So lastly, one of the things I think new agents get caught up in a lot of times is not understanding the concept. If it's too good to be true, then it probably isn't. Okay.
It probably is or it isn't.
If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't true, or it is.
Oh, it probably is
Right.
too good to be true.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what I mean by that, it can be a combination of factors. It could be a client that you're talking to. Client may come in and say, I have $300 million. I'm going to use you as my exclusive agent. And I know you don't know me, but I'm going to give you all this business and whatever. That's probably too good to be true, right? sounds too good to be true for a brand new agent to get that client. It probably is too good to be true. He's either unrealistic where they don't have the money, no serious agents willing to work with them because they just don't buy even if they have the money, or for various other reasons. It is probably too good to be true. Same goes for analyzing properties. You know, if you see a property on the market for your client and you're representing a buyer and it's just an amazing property, it's giving a ingoing 12, 13% cash on cash return. Your cap rate's 8 or 9 when the average cap rate should be 5 or 6. It's probably too good to be true. And when you look into that investment, you're going to find the holes in it. They're either projected, they're too aggressive, they have short hold time frames, expectations, or unrealistic expectations in changing out the leases and bringing in new tenants to market rate. So understand that those 3 or 4 things, actually, as a new agent, I think, if you really focus on that, 1, getting started, choose your major market. 2, choose your product class. What product are you going to work on? Become the expert in that product class. Okay? You can still do other product types, but focus on one that you're an expert on. Yes.
What's the number of properties that should be in a specific starting marketplace? Because if you pick a street and there's only 50 properties, you can get through that list of cold calls in a day.
Well, that's a sub-market, more so than a marketplace. I'm talking about major markets as in major metros. So, meaning if you're going to work in commercial real estate, if you're going to choose an area that is Wallback, Nebraska, that has 281 people that live there, and nearest town is 2,000. It has 3 commercial buildings or 5 commercial buildings. Not a good place to start a commercial real estate career. You might want to do a combined commercial and residential. LA, though, is different. So what you want to do and what we talk about, and I think what you're talking about, is understanding a sub-market within that major market. And more importantly, I think this goes to key number, the second thing that we said was become an expert in your market. You can't understand a market of 10,000 properties and understand it very well. You know, you're not going to look at Los Angeles and say, hey, in 6 months' time, I know every single sub-market here. It's impossible to do. And to know it as a professional, not in 6 months, maybe after 20, 25 years. So instead, you focus on one area and then you learn everything about that market. And then as you know everything about that market in that one area, you can expand that market, and eventually your market reach is a lot larger. Okay? Yes?
I have a question, but this one's more personal. What was your first commercial sale with a client that you didn't previously know or was recommended from your sphere of influence?
Good question.
What's the story behind the success?
I started off a little bit differently doing real estate auctions. So, one of my first commercial real estate sales was the Hanford Mall at a real estate auction on a foreclosure for REO stuff back in the 90s. So we did a lot of those type of sales, and I never met those. I did meet the clients in the sense that they were banks at the time, things like that. But generally speaking, that was all just cold calling and calling. You have to cold call to get your business. That is still the number one source of business, is putting down your time and energy into making those calls. So almost every, and frankly, we started getting referrals relatively quick just from our sphere of influence, but they were smaller deals. A lot of them weren't qualified. It was just people trying to help us out. True referrals coming from past clients and other vendors like 1031 exchange companies, attorneys, things like that. That didn't happen until about 10 years into the career. You have to foster those relationships. I mean, really good referrals. And then you're always continuing fostering them. So, you're always looking for more. Just because you have a stable, so to speak, of referring companies or people, you should always be looking for more, whether it's your networking through your college alumni, and even if you didn't go to college in that town, Most large universities and colleges have an alumni group in most major cities. So, you can do that and still get in there. And surprisingly, a lot of them, especially a lot of the East Coast and larger colleges, they're very loyal to the people that went to their schools. There's a lot of school pride that goes into going to certain universities, and they try and work with them. It's been said before, if you're in Los Angeles and you're in real estate, you should be going to USC Real Estate School. If you're in Southern California, if you're gonna, so it doesn't mean that that's the key to success. It's just that they're very tight knit. I also know in Dallas, it's SMU versus, SMU versus UT or UT versus TCU. They're very tight knit on who they refer business to. And in fact, if you're going up against some agents sometimes, even all things being equal, they're probably going to go with their alumni friends. So just understand that and work those connections. And that's assuming all things being equal, of course. So, yes, did you have a question? Oh, no. Okay. All right. So, where we we're recapping a little bit. We talked about choosing a major market, going into product type, understanding that product type, understanding it and really getting to know it and be professional in it. Marketing. Your marketing has to be on point. If you're not out there letting people know that you're in this business, no one else is. So you have to be out there. That marketing can be a factor of cold calling, social media, email campaigns, drip campaigns, things like that. Those are all things that you want to incorporate into your daily business. And lastly, too good to be true. Remember, starting off, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true, right? And it's not something that you're going to want to jump into and spend a lot of time. May warrant some investigation to determine that, but at the same time, 99% of the time, it's going to be too good to be true, and it's nothing that you should be working on. So keep that in mind.